I'm Zak Cochrane. I'm a member of the SWP. I'm also involved with Love Music, Hate Racism and the Stand Up to Racism campaign. Thanks everyone for coming. We've been running music events all throughout the day and due throughout the whole festival. But the latest session, this one, the criminalisation of grime and drill, we thought was absolutely important to be involved in. LMHR in the early 2000s, when it formed, was working alongside a number of grime artists, starting out Wiley, the Roll Deep crew. They bought into the idea of the importance of love music, hate racism. One of the issues at the time was a number of venues where we'd often go to have love music, hate racism gigs. They'd make issues with grime artists performing. There was a form that we'll come on to, the 696 form, a risk assessment form, that was heavily racialised, that discouraged promoters, made it very difficult for them to book grime artists. We're now, fast forward, we've seen this situation in America, haven't we, with the treatment of hip-hop artists as well. And the latest genre of music, certainly in the frame we're seeing now, is drill music. So we want to discuss some of these issues today. We've got one of our speakers is running slightly late, but I'm pleased to say that two other speakers are here. So the first artist that I want to introduce, we've got Lloyd. He's an artist from Leicester. He's influenced by grime, by hip-hop and by drill as well. So we thought it'd be fantastic. He's performed at a number of Love Music, Hate Racism events around the country. Some of you'll recognise him for there. I just want to run a little clip of him performing. Okay. I should just have pointed out how it's going to run. It's be slightly different format than some of the other meetings. We've got a bit of a Q&A with some of the artists. I'm then going to open it up for questions or contributions, so there'll be plenty of time for the discussion as well. But I just want to start out by hearing and let Lloyd tell us a bit about his musical journey, how he become an artist.
Hello, my name's Lloyd. I'm from Leicester. Does everyone know where Leicester is? Because sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm in London. People don't know about Leicester. But yeah, I'm from Leicester. Good. Yeah, so I'm from Leicester. And in terms of me being an artist from Leicester, I've always felt kind of boxed off. So I feel like we've kind of developed a kind of sound, a consciousness that maybe the rest of the country hasn't seen yet. And I feel like as an artist, I delve into all types of genres, grime, drill, hip-hop, as you could hear there. I listen to a lot of different genres, and a lot of my experiences are different probably from the southern part of the country. We had a lot of national front when I was younger. There was a lot more racism. When I originally was born in South London, but then I moved up to Leicester when I was like 9 years old. When I moved up to Leicester, I moved to a predominantly white area. Like, my experiences, I feel, were a lot different, and I feel like I put that through in the music as well. And yeah, like I've been making music for about 13 years. I've got an album out already called Dobbs to the Mad Skin and British. It was kind of like, I just did that as we had anger, when I was younger. I had a lot of anger, and I kind of just put it through the music, and I feel like that was the best way to do it. I've got one coming out later this year, which is called Rhythms, Roads and Mansions of Freedom, and that is kind of about growing up and realising that you can use the music as a powerful tool. And yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Okay. So, you're a similar age to me. You're a grime fan because you do grime. What would you say it was like trying to find grime events in the early 2000s? How did you find that?
It was, when we first experienced grime, because grime was like, some of my mates from East London used to tell me about grime. I remember first hearing D-double, if anyone knows who D-double is, and thinking, what is this? Like, what is this? This is crazy. But it felt like it was ours, like it was British, like it was us. And going to the raves was like a celebration of that. Like hearing Dizzy Rascal and Kano and all of them. We go to the raves at youth. I mean, I was like around 13 at that time, And I go to the raves, try and go to some of these raves, and they'd lock it off even for youngsters. And even the over 18s, they were locking it off for them. Like it's like they just didn't want us to have that experience. And the thing that really got me is when I used to go out, shouldn't be said, when I used to go out to clubs at 16, but I used to go to the clubs at 16, I would see like just normal clubs, just normal pubs and clubs. I used to see fights there as well. And then it always seemed to, when we would have fights at a grime rave, they'd be like, let's just shut grime down. It's Grime's fault. It's Grime's fault. And it's like, but when you're at a club and someone's throwing a beer glass at someone, like, no one's shutting the whole club down. It's like this one rule for them, one rule for, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like they just tried to box grime off. And it was just, we didn't have nowhere to go after that, like, especially for a music we loved.
And I'll put that question to you then. Why do you think that is? Why do the police want to control the music we're listening to? Particularly, it's a pattern of young black artists that they're issuing bans or restrictions for.
I think part of it is they want to control, because you've seen it in history. Like we were just talking about two-tone earlier. They just control anything that comes from the working class that they can't harness. And that's something which has a political message or an undertone. Because sometimes, like we were saying earlier, the political message is not always, we're fighting against the government. Sometimes the political message is, I'm telling you how shit my life is. And people around the other parts of the country who might not be in the inner cities might not know about that. And if someone's like protesting to you and telling you how rubbish their life is and how it's affecting them, I feel like it's it's a good way of doing that. It's a good way of doing that. And I feel like I forgot the question now because I've rambled on.
No. Yeah. Why did the police? We're going to come on to drill in a minute, and the ban of drill, which is quite a significant thing, which I'll come on to. Yeah. But why do the police want to control what we're listening to?
They want to control it because I feel like they don't understand it. And it kind of, with every generation, it's like they've got a vendetta against the youth, or they feel like that is the only way that they can control this violence, or they feel like that is the only way that they can get people to just do what they say and not venture out of their lines. And I feel like youth culture is that, venturing out of the lines. And I don't think we should control that. I don't think we should stop that. I've always said to like my mates, like the way that they deal with cutting down violence is like taking more police off the street, taking away youth clubs. And then they wonder why drill's there. They wonder why Grime's there. It's like that's our only way to get out of it. That's our only frustration. And I feel like that is, the police want to do that, but they're doing it against it. So they're not going to the root of it. They're trying to shut down what we're using as frustration because of the root cause of it and the root problem of it. I always say that like getting rid of police and closing youth clubs is like someone with cancer taking a paracetamol. Like it's not going to work. Like you have to get to the root of the problem, and I think they want to shut it down because that fire in the working class, the people that they're paid by, the police are paid by, are not. They don't like that, and they're scared of it, and they're fearful of it because.
But isn't it much cheaper to say it must be something about black culture than to actually invest the money into the youth services thing? If it just say this is happening because young black men are violent.
Yeah.
That's a lot cheaper than admitting there's a lack of funding for these things.
Exactly, and I mean, look where the money's going. I mean, we get. I mean, they recently just had something on the BBC where people were getting paid, and then they're taking stuff from. That is just what they do. Like and I feel like not pumping money into. They make us feel like there's not enough money to go around, but there is enough money to go around. It's just that they're trying to move it around and harness it and manipulate it in certain ways, so we think it's our fault. When really, like, where the frustration is coming from is due to the lack of funds and due to the lack of youth clubs and due to the lack of places to go and play, and feeling like we can embed in society. Because I feel like grime and drill and stuff like that is something that we created out of not feeling like that boy in the corner, like Dizzy Rascal, like that like we can't get involved in society. So this is our thing. This is what we've got now, and this is, and we're doing it unadulterated. Like this is it. Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to ask you now for a kind of, can be a favourite artist or a grime artist you think that best articulates what grime music's about, but also the articulates the experience of young people living in inner cities as well.
I can't pick one artist. I can't pick one artist. I would say there's loads of artists. I mean, for me, obviously you've got, for me, Getz is one that comes to mind. You've got Stormzy, who's doing what he's doing. There's a lot of artists, I don't know, like from the old school, which are like Dizzy Rascal, or like from the new school, there's a few new people coming up. But yeah, I would say probably Getz or someone like that. It reminds me of the anger of grime. He kind of, for me, embodies the anger, like the crazy, just like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay,
thank you very much. Our next speaker I want to introduce, our next panellist, is Darcy Thomas. We're delightful to have. He's a series producer of MTV Raps and MTV Rates. He's been involved in producing Rodney P's Bass Beats and Bars, which is about grime, a programme about grime. He was involved in getting the statue of Wiley for the tribute of grime as well. He's worked with a number of artists as well. We've got a little clip of something actually he's been involved in very recently. This is an exclusive. This is going out on MTV today. You would have seen in The Guardian, Krept and Conan, two grime artists. They've launched a petition on change.org against the banning of drill music. A fantastic articulate letter they wrote into The Guardian for their reasons. And Darcy has wrote, we've got here an absolute exclusive that is going out today. We've got a clip from that, his interview with them.
This is who you're banning, this is who you're stopping. All these people that are inspiring and influencing people, we're all from the road. This is where you really want us, in jail. Like, we got them all in the jail scene, and this is where we could end up if you stopped us from doing what we're doing.
Look what we're doing now for the community and the people and our people. Do you know what I'm saying? And you're saying you want to stop other people like us coming through because, you know, the music's intimidating to you. But they're just rapping about what they're living. Do you know what I'm saying? When your circumstances change, you start rapping about other things. Do you know what I mean? And influencing, and that's why, you know, in our position, you know, we're rapping about what we're seeing these guys are going through, and we're trying to, you know, use that to influence and change and help everyone in that situation.
I think that was definitely shown like effectively as well, like in the film, like seeing like the vicious cycle due to environments, and then being in prison and then coming out trying to make something for yourself, like making music, and then it getting banned. There was a lot of cameos in the film as well. You got Dig That in there, Heady One, you got RV. What made you reach out to all these people? Like Teflon was in there, like loads of people, man.
It made sense, and it like the music that they're trying to stop, everybody in their mix. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, this is who you're banning, this is who you're stopping. All these people that are inspiring and influencing people, we're all from the road. We've all made a difference, and now we're all doing positive stuff. So like, you need to see the actual people you're banning. These are the people, this is where you really want us, in jail. Like, we got them all in the jail scene, and this is where we could end up if you stopped us from doing what we're doing. So I feel like it kind of tied in.
Okay, I just want to give a bit of context for this. Brilliant. So get this on your Sky Plus box going out tonight, going out today. Make sure you watch that on the Catch Up TV. So for those that don't know, what the police have brought in terms of the ban for drill, they can now stop an artist performing under the Serious Crime Act. This is something that's used against terror offences. You know, this is how serious that they're treating. There's two artists, Skendo and AM, that have been banned from performing materials that you know, there's another group 1011 that they've had loads of stuff taken off of YouTube as well. So this is how serious it is. It's actually a development from the days of the 696 form with grime. They're further restricting an artist's ability to produce. So I just want to ask you first of all, Darcy, to tell us a bit about yourself and how you've been involved in music.
I think I'm a frustrated musician. I used to MC with these lot when I was a kid, and then I started making films, and I saw what they were doing, and I thought, you know what, I could get that in as a composition. And I always saw the marriage between my visual and their sound, because at the end of the day, it was one working class vision. For me, it's about looking back on what had happened previously for us to go forward. And I've been doing bits of research into how we can kind of fight this politically, because this has always been going on. I mean, from the 1950s, where the Windrush, basically, and we had soldiers from America that came over into London, and we had that fusion of reggae and jazz and soul. It was being restricted from early, because what had happened was there were a community of individuals, or a society, I'd say, that were alienated by the establishment, and as a way of policing this community, they put in regulations and policies. But what they don't count on is the fact that technology enables us to be free. And we, as creatives, because we're all creative, use that technology to fight politically. And it's happened from generation to generation. So from reggae up until like disco, rap, jungle, garage, grime, drill, it's always happened. And they've always got a new policy. Like in the beginning, it was the sus law. And then it became ASBOs. And then I'm sure in jungle there was some sort of restriction because of the guns and drugs that were going on there. So it's always happening. And for us, it's about looking back so we can see what had happened, so we can use that as a tool to go forward. Yeah, so that's basically what I'm trying to do.
Nice. No, it's absolutely fantastic. You mentioned the sus laws. Obviously, at the moment, we've also had the proliferation of the use of Section 60s now, where young black people are being stopped and searched on the streets. We've got the gang matrix that's being used, supposed.
That is ridiculous. So who knows about the gang matrix? Like 2 people? Okay, 3 people. Shall we educate them about the gang matrix? Okay, basically, it's a big database that puts all of the young people basically in London at the moment, but it's going national, right? And it covers everyone that's done a crime or could possibly do a crime and their friends, and it puts them all in a list, whether you like it or not, without your consent. And most of it is BAME young people. So they've just got loads of BAME people on this database. And Amnesty tried to do a petition, and they've been fighting against it. And I can't remember the gentleman from Tottenham, Stafford and Amnesty have been fighting this, and it's very important that we do, because basically it holds our young people down on these terrorist acts. Now, that is a thing that's going to penalise these young people. It's going to block them from everything, because you can't get a job. If you're signing on, your benefits will get stopped. It completely shuts your life down, and that's the way they're challenging us now. So we need to fight that, and that's why it's important that we look at what was happening previously so we can go forward, because this political prison that they're trying to put us in, we need to break free from, and we can, that's the thing, but we just need to be aware of it, because they're fighting in stealth.
I suppose the same questions I put to Lloyd. Why do you think the police, the establishment, are cracking down so much on what people are listening to? And we can extend to that.
All right.
Where they go as well. And
I'm a conspiracy man, so you shouldn't even ask me that, you know? Like, I think they know how much money we can make from our creativity. They know, like, I think there was a study that was done 3 years ago that say if you allow a full diverse workforce, it could actually bring in an economic value of like 2.16 billion for the country, and we should be working towards that rather than blocking it. Now, with the birth of YouTube and everything else that's happening with these artists, they're allowed to make money independently. We don't need record labels no more. I know people that are making, say for example, you get, was it 200,000 streams? It's quite a big number, but that is enough for you to live on like 3 or 4K a month as an artist, as a musician. And you know your global reach already, to do that, it's ridiculous. Now, if you break down the Afrobeats artist reach, like someone like MHD, for example, his diaspora, it's the full African diaspora. So he's pulling in, like, on his launching week, 450 million views for the week. And he's, like, not even 25, yeah? And these young people can do that because we're an alienated community. We've created our own community. We have our own network. We know putting this video on this channel reaches out to that network. We know it's going to get X amount of millions of views. They know that too. So rather than stop or rather than help these people make enterprises which could actually change their community and put on more jobs and actually bring up the economic value, you're penalising the artists that are actually making the monies for their community and stopping them from creating those enterprises, which is redundant. I think it doesn't make sense. If you want to try and change the economy and boost what we're doing, we need to support them rather than block them.
Do you think, though, I suppose the question can be put out to both of you, though, do you think at a time of neoliberalism, of austerity, deep dissatisfaction with the system, do you think it's cultures they're worried about, they feel they can't control? So we were talking before about garage was the kind of acceptable to an extent, but then grime was, oh, hang on a minute. And we're seeing this again in the 70s with punk music. There was a big... it was felt to be anti-establishment. They couldn't control that. Do you think there's an extent of they don't know where this could go?
It's okay when it's happy. Okay, garage was good because it's young black people, young BAME communities spending their disposable income on the champagne lifestyle to look flashy in the Versace shirts. Grime is, bruv, I'm wearing my tracksuit with my dirty sliders and I'm telling you how cruddy I'm living. Yeah, and if you don't like it, I don't business in it because that's how we're living. This is working class. That's the difference. They don't like that because that's dirty Britain. It's not Great Britain, but that's real Britain.
Yeah, 100%. I always feel like I was saying to you earlier, the grime MCs were the kids that couldn't get into the garage raves. We were the ones that were blocked out the garage raves. We weren't dressed Chris or nothing like that, and we were telling you exactly the way it was. And I feel like they don't want the realness of Britain, the real murky history, and the real what the establishments have done to their people. They don't want that to come out, and they don't want it to come out in terms of it's uncontrollable and the message is because at the moment it might be dirty, or it might be like grime might be cruddy, or drill might be cruddy, but they don't want it getting to a point where it's organised.
Bro, Skender and AM, they did a performance at the Saatchi Gallery the other day. Like, come on, prestigious at the Saatchi Gallery. So that we're on levels. We are definitely on levels. Even the fact that we did Grime for Corbyn, for example, and we managed to galvanise a youth vote. Like, it's because it's the voice of the people why that is allowed to happen.
Yeah. Could you tell us a bit about Grime for Corbyn? How that got started?
I think at the time there was obviously a big disparity of what was going to happen with the vote at the time, and there was a lot of support from Jamie and Skepta and a few other artists of everyone getting to support like Jeremy Corbyn because they felt he was the voice of the people, or the voice of the young people at least. He was looking out for them. And then a lot of MCs came together and they put on this event. Sorry, I'm talking quite back. So a few MCs came together and they put on this event with the help of these 7 people. I can't remember everybody's names, but basically they managed to change the vote. They pulled together and it was the same day that there was the attack on that bridge. Do you remember? There was that big incident. Again, conspiracy man. There was supposed to be a phone call from Jeremy Corbyn to the MCs, like to say thank you as that was happening, and it didn't get to happen. But if you that link, I felt was to happen, that political link where you actually saw them together, I think like Britain would look on it a lot differently. I know they have since, like, because of Stormzy, what he's done at Glastonbury and like what he does and stands up for, like he uses his platform wisely. But I feel like actually seeing other people stand up and align themselves with these artists would change that perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
I just prompt a question on to this is this what some of the things you think they're scared of? Because the way that they talk about justifying these bans, as with hip hop, what the big calls to ban hip hop was it's nihilistic, it just promotes violence. But are they really concerned when it gets, and this questions about drill as well, when it gets politicised and it starts to make demands actually on the people in power? Is that what they're scared of?
I mean, we can see the way that they did it to the Black Panthers. As soon as people from deprived areas organise and they make something which it can actually fight against the establishment, they always want to break it down. And I feel like that is what all these blocks are for, to stop drill, to stop grime, or to stop any music from deprived areas getting to a point where it can be organised enough to actually go against the establishment. Because I think that's what it's coming to in the future. I feel like the working class will have to have their own stance, maybe in policy. So I feel like that's what they're trying to stop. They're scared of it and they're trying to stop it because our ideals don't fit their ideals, innit? So I think
I think that's initially what they're trying to stop.
I haven't asked you yet about the question about your artist, grime or drill, that you think best articulate and captures young people's experience in the inner cities.
I don't think you can pick one artist because every community is going to have their spokesperson. So as Lloyd would say, like his community in Leicester, I think they're a bit more conscious when it comes to their lyricism. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think like every genre is going to have those different artists, and it depends on you as a person what's going to resonate with you. But for me, I feel like the person right now that's doing what needs to be done, not just represents the culture, is Stormzy, because he's creating enterprises. He's using his platform to put other people up as well, and that's going to create the network and the community that we need to fight this. So yeah, I'd say him at the moment.
Just on grime, obviously now grime is, Stormzy put a track out, I think it had 12 million, something like 12 million sales straight, like on the first day. It beat Taylor Swift into #1. You can clap if you want that. But how has grime gone for, as I was growing up at 15, 16, and the only place you got grime was on YouTube or the Lord of the Mics things. It was hard to find anywhere to watch it. Channel U, of course, I just heard. How has it gone from this underground scene to being so mainstream without, losing... I know there was at times when artists went a bit poppy, but now they're very much grime. They're criticising F. Boris, F. Theresa May, and they're still doing so well. How's that happened?
We've evolved as a people. Again, the technology helped us get through. I believe before TV's judged, and not many people know this, but TV is actually judged by 1,000 boxes, well, it used to be, that were given out to middle-class white families across the country. Only 1,000 that would represent the whole nation, okay? Middle-class white families. So obviously we don't have proper statistics that represent what's happening on television. The birth of the internet and YouTube actually gave us proper statistics. So you can't hide the numbers anymore. So you can put these programs on, but we know no one watches TV. I work at MTV. I know no one watches my program, okay? I know it's probably a couple of mums or grands that might have it on in the background when your grandkids come over, so you seem cool. I know that. But I know this is going to allow you to look cool, and you will have like a generational link because you've got something to talk about, and then you can see what they're going through. So it's imperative that I do this so you can change your side as well. Yeah, I lost my train of thought because I was explaining that. Yeah, we've evolved as a people. So me being on the inside doing this for the TV side has allowed more of these artists to have a platform and tell their story. There's also like thousands of people like me that work in radio and other organisations like that as well. The thing is, we've been Agent Smith, so the Matrix has taken people like me to go and find these people and put them on TV because they know they're out of touch. But it's up to us to use that power to do what we have to do. Again, like, we're not idiots. We know what we've been going through, and that's why these changes are happening. Like, people are setting up businesses and they're working on both sides of the fence, and that's why this change is happening. Because you can't block it when it's the actual establishment that's helping it to come through, and it's only happening because we've got inside men now.
Do you think, you mentioned at first about society's change, do you think it's what's happened outside as well, like the politicisation outside? Like, is music a microcosm? Because as you said, people are representative of their communities. They speak, use their platform often to speak what their friends and themselves have gone through. Do you think there's a greater politicisation outside that's feeding into demand for more politicised grime music and has propelled that forward? Or?
Yeah, I feel like definitely. I mean, there's a lot of issues that have affected us. Like, you had the riots in London, like that. A lot of issues like that have been publicised and affected us. And I feel like grime or drill has been an uprising of a more political voice. I mean, years ago, you probably wouldn't have seen Krept and Coman or anyone like that be able to get to a level where they could get something in Parliament where someone, you know what I'm saying, we wouldn't be able to have that path there. But I feel like now we're all getting older, we're all growing up, and I feel like we're getting involved in knowing that we can actually like trigger the Matrix. I don't want to call it the Matrix because I'm going to go into some conspiracy. Cause I'm trying to keep it, away from conspiracies. But we've got a lot of people who we can fiddle around the Matrix now. We can make it work for us, and I feel like that's what they're scared of as well. And I feel like that is what's happening as we progress. We're configuring in it and making it better for us, and they can't stop it. It's not gonna be a process of stopping it. I think all they do is can put speed humps in the way, but we're still gonna be able to go over them. So still,
I think there's positives as well. Like all of the champions in our industry, like our best British boxer would come out playing grime music. Our Formula One racer plays grime music. Like if all of our champions are the children of grime and they are flying our British flag, you're gonna have to take like into consideration what they're listening to, because it's making us champions.
Yeah, 100%.
Is there a danger though that if grime becomes so mainstream, it loses touch with? I mean, is that a result? Is that where drill music's come from? That grime music's almost got too mainstream and less underground.
I think the thing that's going to stop that now is that, like you were saying, we don't need record companies. So because we don't need record companies, there's going to be no one harnessing the creativity. So there's always going to be cutting edge music that you're going to hear. There's always going to be there's no one going to be telling someone, oh, you should spit this, or you should do this, or this is going to sell. There's always going to be those artists who are not signed to a label, who are doing it off their own back, who have got their friends who are doing the business with them, who they've employed for their independent labels. And I feel like that is going to keep it really homegrown. That is going to keep it real pure. And I don't think it's going to be able to be messed with, because we've got it. We've even got the business side of it now. So I think moving forward, they're not going to be able to harness it like they've harnessed other forms of music from the ghetto.
I think if you put the two genres together at the moment, drill makes a lot more money than grime music, and it's a younger genre. These artists are making like $3,000 to $5,000 a booking, whereas a grime MC probably gets 50 quid to maybe 250 for his first couple bookings, and then he'll make his way up to $2,000 and $3,000. There's a big difference between the industries, and it's because the young people that are tapping into this music, there's a larger volume of them. When we were creating our sound for grime, there was a shorter or smaller number of us, and then now it's grown, but we're too late. Like, we're 30. Do you get what I mean? And these kids are doing it from 16. So it's different, and they're making money from early, and they're understanding how to build a business from early. Like, we were building our businesses. But we were still kind of like 20-ish. They're building it from when they're in secondary school, bruv. They're a lot more advanced. So I think there is a bigger progression with drill, but I feel like we covered a lot more of a landscape with grime politically, which has allowed a different space for them.
Okay, thank you very much, the panelists. And now we've got a roaming mic, and we've got time is for questions and contributions there. I'll tap on the mic after 2 minutes.
Hi, yeah, I've got a question. I'm just conscious of the fact that, you know, with today's music, particularly with grime and drill, you know, I think it's a case of the authorities are scared because you are telling the truth. And the fact is, you know, if you're from a deprived area and you're going to talk about that. You know, if you're being ripped off by society, you're going to talk about that. And I think, you know, the authorities are shit scared because you will actually expose these people. That's why I think that that drill music and grime music, they're being controlled, or they're trying to control. They're trying to pull in the reins. They don't want people to be exposing them. So that's why I think that there is a scare tactic that they're trying to put upon, you know, young artists. I also think that the police are also scared that you'll rat them out as well, because let's face it, you know, police and young people and grime and drill are not great combinations. So I think there is this form of control that they're trying to put upon young artists, especially young black artists as well, because I'm of the belief that if it was white artists, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's a fact. And also there is this thing as well, is, you know, if it was white artists, it would be seen as cool. Oh, you know, those white kids, you know, they're talking about, you know, their deprived lives. But when it comes to black people talking about real issues and the real struggle, particularly older because I'm 44. So basically, I'm a bit older and I see what's going on the streets. So as soon as, you get black people talking about, their struggles and, and the things that they have to go through, even through racism and racial profiling, it's a case of, stop there, you're going to cause violence. So that's my take.
Okay, I'll take, yeah.
Hi, thanks for the talk. My name's Dean Ryan. I'm a member of Hackney SWP, and I also work with young offenders. And I just want to talk a little bit about the gangs matrix, because actually it's worse than you made it sound. Well, it's worse than you made it sound. Actually, the gangs matrix was something that was brought in by David Cameron after the 2011 riots, and it's to identify people who are involved or gang involved and stuff. And actually, one of the most disgusting things about that, actually, young people who grow up in the States, who live by someone, actually, all you need to be spotted saying hello to someone, and you can be placed on the gangs matrix. Disgustingly, I know people who have been stabbed, and because young people have been stabbed, and because they don't want to talk about the stabbing, they don't want to tell people, for fear of reprisals, the police then say, it was a gang incident, you must be in a gang, and actually people are being put in the gangs matrix because they've been the victims of crime. So actually, it's a really racist piece of legislation. And actually, because I work with young offenders, I get to see how police intelligence works. I had I hope work don't see this, but actually, I've had situations where you get with police reports, so-and-so was spotted with so-and-so, but that can't be the case because that person's already in prison. That's how police intelligence works, you know what I mean? So it's absolutely really, really, really stupid now to come to music and grime. I think actually there's been some really fresh stuff happening. I think actually grime is becoming more and more politicised. I've got to big up my boy Dave, because Dave actually, his song Black is a really, really, really positive song about being really positive. The Captain Conan video on YouTube, I think I'll advise everyone to go and watch the Captain Conan video on YouTube, because actually what that story is actually the story of a young guy who gets involved in gangs. He talks about how actually mum's working hard, got nowhere to go, I've got to hang out on the street, and the video shows how actually a real life situation, and it is so real that actually you should read the South Bank University did a thing called From Postcodes to Profit, and they interview people who work in the youth offending service, and they tell the same story about how exclusion leads to young people getting involved in gangs, how people's parents have got to work long hours, and that means that actually that people are forced out on the streets. And Captain Conan's video is exactly the same sort of thing. So I'd really, really, really advise people to do it. And I'd just like to say to people, actually keep fighting, because actually a lot of the young people I work with actually love music, and that's the way that they can express themselves. And disgustingly, what's happened is things like the gangs matrix, things like bloody criminal behaviour orders that ban young people from congregating together, and actually means that you're forever locked in the criminal justice system, are really, really putting people down. And I think we've got a real fight on our hands. And actually, it's disgusting that the Tories can ban drill, but the people who bought the cladding for bloody Grenfell Tower can walk free. Actually, that shows you what sort of society, that shows you the society we live in. And actually keep on fighting, and we've got to fight this racism, and all power to you.
Thank you. I'll take the guy over here.
Can everyone see my wonderful face? Lovely. So basically, I'm a big fan of grime and drill music, and I find that there are many, many political elements in the drill music as well. I like the artist Drill Minister, who did a song about Brexit, really bringing up the importance of the politics through the drill music as well, which I really admire. And I also admire Stormzy as well. And I also admire because it's given a big fuck you to the police. Now, my dad's a police officer. I'm a communist. Now, I know he's a police officer and he knows I'm a communist, but we both hate each other, so that's the story of that. So, yeah, and I just, it's just great to see that, the black community are still, really, really fighting and support, and I deeply support the rights of, everyone, and from someone who is from the gay community who are victims of by the police, who were pushed up against the wall and hit down to the ground, and all of a sudden pride has become of, oh, we love you, police officer. Well, like if they can be fuck off as well, wouldn't it? But yeah, I'm just a big mind. I really love what you've been saying. So yeah, thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. Just from sort of more like what you're saying, sort of like the comment about like sort of throwing away disposable income, like encouraging like the Black Panthers. Sort of my take on it is it just seems like not only sort of like keeping sort of young black people within sort of the criminal justice system, but it's also, I think, the latest in a very long line of attempts to keep sort of black communities from having control of their own income and their own industry. I mean, it's like the Black Panthers, in America, tried to set up food banks for kids, tried to educate them. The police and FBI used to go in and stop that and sort of beat up, Black Panthers. And another thing as well is like, is this idea of doing it outside any record labels, sort of, big monopolies, on culture, means that there's this worry, that black people will eventually, have money to put into their own communities, start building stuff up, and actually sort of have, and they will stop being dependent on white capital. I mean, there was a thing on Netflix called, not the best, the name is called Trigger Warning, but it's by a rapper in America called Killer Mike. Yeah. And one of the first I hate the name because I thought its first episode was a really good demonstration of how much, white capitalism has forced, black people, especially in America, but also in Britain as well. It's like, that there is no way of being in control of your income because everything now is owned by white people. And I think it's that thing of any sort of way of being able to sort of build up your own income for your community is now being stopped as well. Because that's, and and another thing as well is that, talking to sort of, people from sort of middle class, upper like class backgrounds, it's like one thing that they really hate is people who make money to them in a similar way, but not in the sort of respectable ways that they do. You got a lot of people making a lot of money off violent films, violent books and everything, but they're white, so it doesn't matter. But when it's a black person doing it, somehow then it's inciting people, to greater crimes and everything. And I think, but yeah, I think, so like, thank you for coming along, and, big up that sort of struggle. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll cover the card. If there's any questions as well for the panelists as well as contributions, but yeah, I'll let you go next.
Yeah, just thanks again for coming over, of course. I've sort of lost my train of thought a little bit. I wanted to say a little bit about Akala, because I think Akala's obviously very political in his lyricism. I wouldn't say he's my favourite grime artist. I do prefer sort of like Jamie and stuff and Skepta. But I think the fact that grime is so popular has really left a space, not just for sort of black people and the community as a whole to actually raise their voices, but where white people and even like white middle class people, white working class people actually want to listen to it as well, because it's actually really sick. And it's yeah, I think that is really inspiring, that it overcomes that unity. And in reality, I think this is what the state and the police are as scared of. When people realise that we've got more in common just through our difficulties that we go through on a day-to-day than we do with the ruling class and with the police who want to criminalise black people, and to an extent the working class as a whole, but definitely more so black people. And I think Akala's book is something, it's not at the front, I should have probably brought it because that is actually my job. But Akala's book speaks a lot about the police and the experience of the police and how that shapes sort of the black experience as a whole. And I think that's something that's not so much being said. Because obviously when you hear about the violence, it's black on black violence, and you never hear about like the pig on black violence, innit? Because the police are dreadful, and they are inherently racist, which is something that hasn't been said yet, I don't think. And I think that is very important to keep in mind when we are talking about why drill is being criminalised. It isn't just a class thing, like you have spoke about class. It is definitely about race, which is important, and I think the unity that comes through music is something to really celebrate.
Thank you. I'll take the guy in the blue jumper.
Hi, my name is Anders. I'm from Denmark, and my first remark is that actually, grime music did not only empower and made a big step forward for people in Britain, also in Denmark before, like immigrant communities, there were really no people who rapped, but when grime came, it gave voice also for Arabic and Turkish community, African, Asian communities in Denmark in like the areas we're from, like project areas. So it meant an explosion of urban music in Denmark. From 2010 and so on. And it meant now with this racist government we had in Denmark that the biggest pop artists, the biggest street urban artists are like immigrant background. And they did more for immigration than the Minister of Integration did in Denmark. So that's the first thing. It also gave a voice not only in Britain but in Denmark as well. And I'm sure also other areas in Europe. Next thing is when this started, there was a bar which eats in an area like an old worker area in Copenhagen called Nørrebro, Nordbridge area. And each Wednesday it had like reggae nights with live microphone and DJing. And first day there was like dubstep, grime, drum and bass night with live microphone controllers, MCs on it. And this place was just next to the building that was the old youth house where Women's International Day was announced back in 1910 or something like this. And it was, Lenin had speeches there. And this was just cheered down a few years before. So it was so amazing being this place with this grime music, developing this at the same place where you had these radical fights for this house that had such a big importance for working class history, not only in Denmark but worldwide, where International Day of Women's Struggle was pronounced. So these two anecdotes just, means that grime means a lot for me and many people worldwide.
Okay. I'll just take the guy here, and then we're going to give him a chance to come back a little bit on some of the points, and we'll have time for some more. Okay.
Cool, okay. Just want to talk about some of the things that we're talking about here is it's interesting when you look at freedom of speech and the hypocrisy that it's all right, the right wing are happy to use it when it works in their favour. People like Nigel Farage, he loves to sort of say, oh, it's just a joke. I'm just telling a joke, that's all it is. Can't you take a joke? Now, I'm a comedian, okay? So I can see how it affects, like comedy. I mean, if you look at, Nigel Farage, he says the most nasty, racist shit possible and controversial, horrible statements, and, he's just having a laugh, isn't he? But yet, Jo Brands, you see what happened with her when she said, I don't think you should be throwing milkshakes at these people. It should be battery acid. Now, it's a good joke, isn't it? It's all right. It's also, great tactical suggestion. But even then, she sort of said, I wouldn't do it, I'm just joking. But she's been, vilified. Nigel Farage said, condemned her, that she should be taken off air. Piers Morgan, all these people condemning her. Even reporting this stuff to the police. Why? Because it's it's now against them. So suddenly, freedom of speech is being used against them, and they're coming out there. So, she's been vilified, she's been chased, she's had journalists chasing her down. Now, needless to say, it's not quite the same as what's happening with drill artists. She's not having, the Serious Crime Act banning her from performing. She's not facing that, but it's ridiculous. It just shows you the hypocrisy, though, when it works in their favour. It just shows how important it is, though, that we keep getting that out there, the music, the words of people, that we need to get it out there. If I just take maybe a slight disagreement with something like that you were saying about, it's okay, we haven't got the record labels controlling us anymore. But unfortunately, if we're going through anything that still has corporate control, be it YouTube or any other thing, there are going to be controls there. These are the gatekeepers. We are already seeing people getting banned off YouTube. Artists getting banned off YouTube, and it'll happen on other things. And even if you come up with another source of getting that music out there, in comes old Billy Google, buys you out. They've controlled you yet again. So, all I can say is it is hard, but we need to keep up that fight. You guys, thank you for doing what you're doing. We need that. It's giving voice there, because when it gives the voice there to like black British working class people, it's the working class as a whole in Britain who gets to have their experience talked about as well. So let's just keep on fighting the good fight. It's good that you're doing it.
Okay, I'm just going to give the panellists a chance just to come back on anything like that, and then we should have some time for a few more questions as well.
What I wanted to just add to what you were saying over there, in terms of like the business mode and everything, us controlling it away from the labels, I think like a good person to look at is the way that Jay-Z's done it in America, and I feel like culturally we do look to America in terms of like what we can do next, and I feel like him coming up with his own streaming service, or to basically make hip hop a business for himself away from the music even, and I feel like that's what it might lead to. And I feel like, yeah, we do have blocks as well as YouTube and places like that, but I think it will eventually get to a point where we've even got our own YouTube, we've even got our own streaming services, and I feel like even if those blocks come there, I feel like the money that we're making off music now and the infrastructure that we're building off it, I think will enable us and each artist to get to a point where it is more for the artists as well. And I think that will help us in terms of the freedom of speech, because there will be more blocks coming. We have to accept that they will keep trying to block us, and we have to prepare for that. And I think ways of preparing for that is kind of the way that Jay-Z's done it, and creating our own streaming services and so on and so forth. And there's obviously with the hypocrisy, it's the same thing I was saying about we was going to clubs and there was fights there. But anytime we have a fight, it's just ridiculous. It's like we've set off a nuclear bomb. They want to shut everything down that we've done, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, Trump could say something that is completely racist, and but they want to focus on something that a black person has said, even more so a black youth has said in the middle of an urban community, which he has no power over what's happening to him. He's just voicing his frustration. But someone who has actual power over shifting culture, someone like Trump, no one's penalizing him. He's allowed to go forth and just and say these underhanded racial comments. So I think that's all I've got to say on that.
I think you're right in saying we're in a similar situation to that, because our scene is very similar to where America was with their music industry 15 years ago. We are building our houses now. We're building our Def Jams, we're building our Bad Boy Records, we're building our Rockefellers, and they will be like Play Dirty. It will be Stormzy's Camp with Murky, and it will be Boy Better Know, you know who the houses are going to be. But it's up for us to help cement that legacy, and that's the thing that's going to make things change. So rather than keep looking at America, we need to look at what's been happening here, and that's what I'm trying to say. So the Black Panthers, you mentioned the American Black Panthers, what they did for their community. You at the front, yeah, you mentioned it briefly when you were talking about Akala as well. It's you, yeah. But the British Black Panthers, they did a lot for the community as well. Like, I know 3 gentlemen, one of them went on to set up Choice FM, which was one of the biggest platforms for grime music in the early days. If there wasn't any Choice FM, there would be no grime. Trust me, Commander B flew the flag. 100%. Another one of them was Linton Crazy Johnson. Obviously, his musical, what he did for this country, you can't even put that into flipping words. And the other one was Darkest Hour. And his legacy alone, like, completely changed us as a black movement. Like, and I believe his longest part of his legacy, or the thing that's going to make the biggest change, is his children. Like, his daughter was working at the BBC, and she helped us have a political platform within the BBC. His son was running Island Records and getting the people out there with the music. So, like, you couldn't block it regardless. His kids are going to continue fighting, and, like, we are the children's children of that. So, like, it's going to continue and continue, and that's the legacy. I think we need to just keep it.
Do you think there's a danger, though, that black, you know, this is an expression, black people in high places, once you get in those positions, actually, you kick the rungs of the ladder down. Once you get a different class position, you're running these companies, that you lose touch with the actual workers of the organisation. We saw this in, you know, we had the 4 black MPs elected, Diane Abbott, Paul Boateng, Keith Vaz, and Bernie Grant, obviously. A wave after the riots where lots of anger at racism, at the sus laws, as you mentioned. But then how much has changed since then, when we were told that having some black leaders in high places was going to change it for ordinary working class people. But it didn't. You know, often people on the ground, their experience in their communities was just the same. We're now in 2019 and we've got stop and searches increasing to the level that they had in the 80s. So is there a danger that you can, you know, we create a black Def Jam, but the kids in our community, and I just want to link in, sorry, to this point, to this thing about racism. The police treatment of black people is absolutely racist. We've got Carnival coming up, and it's seen as acceptable by the police to take over whole streets just to stop and search young black kids. This is the police. They encourage this idea that black kids are inherently criminal, that it's absolutely fine to stop and arrest them. So, sorry, just to go back on that, I suppose, do you worry that you get into these positions, actually you lose touch with people on the ground? Oh.
On your Carnival situation, Carnival, I don't know if everyone knows this, it was actually set up to pay for people's legal fees that were being imprisoned wrongly anyway. So it's always been that. Like, we've always used our creative element to fight this political agenda. And the police are always going to fight against our black British sound, because the black British sound is cool and it galvanizes working class people, and it breaks any racial barrier, and it links us and it creates us basically to become one big family, and that's what they're scared of. But I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, our other panellist has arrived. We're just going to show a quick clip of him. We're pleased to welcome Dizzle AP Dizzle, sorry. He's a protege of Jammers. He's a grime and drill artist based in Luton. So we're just going to show you a little clip, and I've got some questions for him. Do you want to just quickly tell us a bit about yourself as an artist, your musical journey to get where you are, and your influences and sound?
I mean, sorry I was late, by the way. Sorry. It would be rude of me not to apologise. Sorry. I mean, like my journey started from grime. Like, I started listening, like, I was very into the grime scene, like, with Jamal, there was Wiley, and Crazy Titch and all these lots. So I'm very influenced by the grime scene. So I was involved in music since then. But, I mean...
Tell them how you met Jamal, or the story of that. I think that's...
The story of how I met Jamal?
It shows how tight it is as a network. I think that would be good.
Yeah, like, how I met Jamal was basically... I did this freestyle right here, and I mentioned Jammer in the lyrics, which basically, like I was saying, was my influence. So yeah, I mentioned Jammer, so I thought, you know what, let me at him on Instagram. So I added him on Instagram. That's what I did basically, and then he basically commented on it saying, yeah, fire, I like this. And then he DM'd me and he was like, raw, like, is that a tune? Like, send it over to me, like, we can do something. And I was like, yeah, serious. Like, it was actually happening. I'm like, yo, he's Jammer's hollering at me. Like, I've been listening to this guy since Merkel, man, So I was like, very gassed in that, you know what I'm saying? So, and then, yeah, like, that's how it happened. And then ever since then, like, we've just clicked. We made a tune, and then he put it on his album. And then since then, he's just took me under his wing, man. He's took me to, like, a load of shows and campaigns and a load of other things. So, like, he's just got my head in the music game, like, deep.
Can I ask you, do you mind if I ask you, what do you think that's done for you as a young person coming up from, like, a deprived background, having someone potentially as a mentor take you to these environments and take you out of the situation?
For me, that was very big because, obviously, like I was in a dark place, innit? Like, I've been in a dark place, so for someone to come and just put me in a different place and say, just focus on this and don't worry about that, was very powerful, because now I'm just focusing all my energy on music. I ain't got time for all the negativity that I was on before, because now I'm doing this and I like this, and it's all because he opened it up to me, you know what I'm saying? So now I've seen it, and it's like, oh, this is what I really want to do. So my mind is just clear, and I'm on a different path now ever since Jam has done that for me.
Just to add in on that, so you talked about music being a way out, you know. So what do you think then of what the meeting's about is the criminalisation of grime and drill? What do you think that the effects that's going to have, and why do you think that the police are criminalising black music?
I think the impact it would have would be very deep, because you got to remember that a lot of people use music as a way to express themselves, not just to get out. You know what I'm saying to you? It's like some people write like journals, they write their little vlogs, and they write, I'm saying to you, like, we write music. That's like how we express ourselves. Like, it's just like how we're feeling. So, and then when you see that you can make money from it, and there is a path that is not negative, and then they're trying to take it away from you, sort of thing, it's just like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? You know what I'm saying to you? I thought I was doing the right thing, but now you're taking it away from me. I'm telling me I'm doing wrong. So what is right? You know what I'm saying to you? So it's very confusing. Like, why would you want to take away a man's living, basically? You know what I'm saying to you? Like, it's weird.
Okay, and I've asked the others, an artist that you think best expresses the experience of what their communities are going through. We've had Stormzy. I think well, your one was Stormzy. Lloyd's was Get Stormzy. Yeah, have you got an artist that you think best captures the experience of their communities?
Right, I don't know. That's a tricky one for you. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, how can you answer that? Because there's so many artists out there that are just doing like so much for the community. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, music-wise, you know what I'm saying to you? Even Jammer, by putting me on, you know what I'm saying to you? That was a powerful move, innit? He didn't have to show me what he showed me, so I have to respect him for that. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, it's real rap, so like you can't really put it down to one person, because there's so many artists that are doing a lot for the scene and for the community. So there's quite a few people.
You dodged that one. Okay, I'm going to take a couple more from the audience now. Yeah, I'll take the woman in the glasses there.
Thank you. Hi, I just wanted to say there was like talks of hypocrisy and a sense of like shock and horror about this criminal act, and I think it's good to notice that we always talk about the hypocrisy in the system being broken. The system is not broken. The system is working perfectly well. It was not designed for us. It was not designed by us. It was not designed to protect people like us. And I think the fact is that there is no magic like silver bullet, and it's going to take more than just 4 MPs. It's going to take more than just grime artists. It's going to take a lot. And I think the beauty of what you guys are doing, and the beauty of grime music and artistry and fashion designing, is that there is a freedom in what you create, and there is a freedom in what... It's just such a beautiful expression of yourself. And I think I knew this before, but you guys really hammered it home, how important it is not just to support, but we need to protect this, because that is where true freedom lies. So, yeah, thank you guys for doing what you do.
Thank you. I'll take the guy behind you. The glasses.
Yeah, cheers. Really enjoyed the talk, and I'm especially glad that you come from Luton, so we got something to associate Luton with rather than that arsehole Tommy Robinson.
Pick up.
Yeah, man. I think basically, I mean, this country's got a disgusting record of racism when it comes to black music, and from Form 696, which is basically a musical sus law. That goes all the way back to the 50s and the breaking up of blues parties in Ladbroke Grove and in Brixton. And even although there's a lot of racism associated with Teddy Boys, the people that were listening to rock and roll music, which incidentally the Daily Mail called the Negro's Revenge in 1956. So, it's a long history of racism against black music in this country and elsewhere. But I guess that I'm leading up to a question that I want to ask, which is more artistic, I guess, than it is political. But the control of over your own music, which I think like digital revolution has enabled, which I think is a brilliant thing, and I know what the Comrade Dare said about that there'll always be someone that tries to ban it. But if you look back to, I just think of like covers of Otis Redding albums in the 60s, right, that didn't have a picture of him on it, had a picture of a blonde white woman, right, because he wasn't considered marketable enough because he was a black guy. Do you know what I mean? So that control that you've got over your own creativity in your own industry, I think, is a brilliant thing. But therein lies a contradiction, I think, because I was a punk, right, many years ago, and when you say that the music that you're playing is being banned by white middle class, middle-aged people, right? And that's sort of punk was a little bit like that. And part of me still thinks, fuck them, right? We don't care what you think, right? So do you see that there's a contradiction artistically if you're trying to keep it real? That the more successful that you get, and like Stormzy playing the Pyramid stage at Glastonbury, as brilliant as that is, but how do you see that struggle of keeping it real and keeping it relevant to the streets and the estates happening without compromising what you're trying to say politically and artistically?
I think
I'll take one more, then we'll bring the panel back.
Apologies. I think what happened with the commercialization of grime and Stormzy playing these big events, that's when a new sound comes through, and it always happens. Like what we were talking about with garage being the commercial version, and then grime came through to be the angry little brother. I think you're always going to have that. You always have the commercial one and then the angry little one that comes through underneath, and right now that's drill. So grime's the commercial arm right now and drill's the angry, the one that keeps it real, basically. So you'll always have two elements. One needs to make money for the country and fly the flag, and the other one needs to just wind up the young people so we can keep being more creative. I think that covers it.
Thank you very much. Did you want to say anything else? Anything else to add? Okay. Look, thank you very much. Can we thank our panelists, please?